The moment Sarah Jensen scalded my hand with boiling tea and my son Mark laughed, I knew our family had reached a point of no return. 43 years of service, 2 tours in Afghanistan, and I would find myself betrayed not on a battlefield, but in my own son's living room. My name is Katherine Reyes, and this is a story about the legacy we choose to preserve and the moments that define us. The military had been my sanctuary long before it became my career. Growing up in a small mining town in northern Nevada, I was the daughter of a single mother who worked double shifts at the local diner. Maria Reyes didn't just work, she survived. Her resilience was my first lesson in strength, long before I ever considered joining the military. I enlisted at 19, a decision that shocked everyone in our tight-knit community. Most girls from our town either married young or settled into local jobs. But I wanted something different. The day I walked into the recruitment office, my mother didn't try to stop me. She simply adjusted the cross pendant around her neck, kissed my forehead and whispered, "Protect yourself, mihija." The Army became more than a career. It became my chosen family. As a combat medic, I learned that family isn't defined by blood, but by the bonds you forge in the most challenging moments. I saw humanity at its most vulnerable and its most heroic. Soldiers from different backgrounds would become closer than siblings, united by a purpose greater than themselves. My first deployment to Afghanistan came in 2005. The landscape was unforgiving, dusty, mountains that looked like they could swallow you whole, villages where every interaction could mean the difference between life and death. I wasn't just treating physical wounds, I was a lifeline, a source of hope in impossible circumstances. Young soldiers would look at me with a mixture of desperation and trust, and I would hold their hands, speak words of comfort, stabilize their bodies and their spirits. During my second tour in 2009, an incident changed everything. Our convoy was hit by an IED. I lost 2 close friends that day and saved 7 others through quick medical intervention. The military awarded me a Bronze Star for valor, but the medal felt insufficient compared to the weight of the lives I'd seen lost and saved. When I returned home, the transition was brutal. The military had been my world, my structure, my purpose. Civilian life felt fragmented, disconnected. Mark was just entering his teenage years then, and my husband Robert, a high school history teacher, tried to help me navigate the complex emotions of post-deployment life. Mark initially looked at me with a kind of reverence. He would ask about my experiences, collect my stories like precious artifacts. "Tell me about the time you saved those soldiers," he would say, his eyes wide, with a mixture of admiration and curiosity. I was careful. I never glorified war. I spoke about humanity, about connection, about the incredible spirit of people surviving impossible circumstances. But something shifted as Mark grew older. The reverence transformed into a kind of dismissive tolerance. My military background became something he viewed as quaint, outdated. Robert's steady, academic approach to life seemed to resonate more with him. My practical, direct communication style, honed through years of military service, became something to be managed rather than respected. I continued working after leaving active duty, first as a veterans counselor and then establishing a nonprofit that helped veterans transition back to civilian life. Each veteran I worked with was another mission, another opportunity to serve. We didn't just help them find jobs. We helped them rediscover purpose, rebuild identity beyond their military service. My organization grew from a small community project to a statewide initiative. We created job training programs, mental health support groups, and housing assistance. Each success felt like another mission accomplished, another life transformed. But at home, my relationship with Mark became increasingly distant. He graduated from a prestigious business school, immediately taking a corporate job in San Francisco. The world of startups and venture capital was galaxies away from the world. I knew. Our conversations became shorter, more perfunctory. Holiday gatherings felt like diplomatic negotiations. polite, controlled, devoid of genuine connection. Robert tried to bridge the gaps. "He's just finding his path," he would say, squeezing my hand. But I knew paths. I had navigated terrain far more treacherous than corporate ladders. I understood the difference between finding a path and losing your way. When Mark married Sarah, a corporate lawyer from a wealthy Bay Area family, I sensed the final distancing. Their world was about appearances, strategic connections, calculated moves. My world had always been about genuine human connection, about showing up when it matters most. I never imagined how completely that distance would manifest. Never anticipated the moment when my own son would laugh as his wife humiliated me, treating decades of service and sacrifice as something to be casually dismissed. But some legacies are not easily erased, and some stories are just beginning. The dinner invitation arrived on heavy cream-colored cardstock, a carefully curated announcement of Mark and Sarah's annual holiday gathering. Robert had already accepted before consulting me, his excitement about maintaining family connections overshadowing the tension that had been brewing for years. Their Nob Hill condominium was a monument to calculated success. Floor to ceiling. Windows overlooked San Francisco's skyline. Minimalist furniture that likely cost more than my first year's military salary strategically placed to impress. Every surface seemed designed to communicate a specific narrative of achievement and sophistication. Sarah greeted me with the precise smile of someone performing social graciousness. Her tailored black dress spoke of expensive designers and careful image management. "Katherine," she said, the use of my full name a subtle indication of the distance she maintained. "We're so glad you could make it." Mark barely looked up from his conversation with a colleague he'd invited, another networking opportunity disguised as a family gathering. I watched him work the room, his movements calculated, each interaction a potential business connection. The passionate boy who once hung on my every word about service and sacrifice had transformed into a corporate machine, measuring worth in LinkedIn connections and quarterly reports. Dinner was a carefully choreographed affair. Multiple courses prepared by a private chef, each dish more intricate than the last. I remembered meals in Afghanistan, shared MREs, water rationed carefully, conversations that held more genuine human connection than this entire evening combined. The silver serving tray reflected my own image. A woman slightly out of place, my military-issued watch a stark contrast to the delicate jewelry surrounding me. "Mom, have you considered updating your approach to veteran support?" Mark asked during the main course, his tone suggesting my work was a quaint hobby rather than a critical lifeline for thousands of veterans. "There are some innovative tech solutions that could really modernize your nonprofit." Before I could respond, Sarah interjected. "Mark's consulting firm has been working with some incredible startups in the veteran support space. They're looking at AI-driven support systems." I knew the systems she meant. Algorithms that could never replace human connection. Technology that could never hold a wounded soldier's hand. Offer a listening ear during the darkest moments of transition. The conversation continued around me. Mark and Sarah trading corporate jargon, their friends discussing investment strategies and startup valuations. I thought about the veterans I worked with, men and women who had given everything, who struggled to find meaning in a world that seemed to value profit over purpose. My prosthetic left hand, a reminder of my second tour, felt heavy. I'd lost those fingers during a medical evacuation, saving 3 soldiers under impossible circumstances. Each scar told a story of survival, of choosing life in moments of extreme danger. Here, survival seemed measured by stock portfolios and networking opportunities. Robert attempted to mediate, sharing stories about his high school history students, trying to create moments of genuine connection. But the conversation would invariably drift back to Mark and Sarah's world, a universe of metrics and managed interactions. As the evening progressed, the tea service became a turning point. Delicate porcelain cups, imported from some obscure Japanese region, were brought out. Sarah began discussing the tea's provenance, its cost, its rarity, another opportunity to demonstrate their sophisticated lifestyle. When she went to pour my cup, her hand slipped. Deliberately? Accidentally? The boiling water cascaded over my hand, the prosthetic and scarred skin burning with unexpected intensity. Mark, who had watched the entire interaction, let out a sharp laugh. "Careful, Mom," he said, not moving to help. "Maybe you should be more careful." The room went silent. The colleagues exchanged uncomfortable glances. Sarah's perfectly manicured hand remained frozen, the teapot suspended in midair. In that moment, I saw everything clearly. This wasn't about an accidental tea spill. This was about dismissal, about erasing the inconvenient narrative of service, of sacrifice, of a mother who didn't fit into their carefully curated world. Robert's hand touched mine, a silent gesture of support. But I was already calculating, not with anger, but with the strategic precision I had learned in combat zones. Some battles are won not through immediate confrontation, but through patient, calculated response. The evening concluded with forced pleasantries. Kisses on cheeks that felt more like diplomatic exchanges than expressions of familial love. As we drove home, Robert remained silent, understanding the storm brewing beneath my calm exterior. I had survived wars. I had rebuilt lives. I had created something meaningful from the most challenging circumstances. And this moment of casual cruelty would not be the end of my story. It would be the beginning of a different kind of mission. The burn on my hand wasn't just a physical wound, it was a declaration of war. Not the kind of war I'd fought in Afghanistan, with clear battle lines and defined missions, but a more insidious conflict fought in the quiet spaces of family and legacy. 3 days after the dinner, a certified letter arrived from Mark's law firm. I recognized the letterhead immediately. The same prestigious downtown San Francisco office where he had become a rising star in corporate litigation. The envelope sat on our kitchen counter, an angular threat wrapped in official paper. Robert watched me carefully as I opened it. My husband had always been my anchor, a man who understood the power of quiet resilience. A high school history teacher who had supported my military career without reservation, who had held our family together during my deployments, who understood that love wasn't about grand gestures but consistent support. The letter was a formal request. Mark wanted to discuss restructuring my nonprofit's operations. Buried in legal language was a thinly veiled attempt to insert corporate management into an organization I had built from the ground up, supporting veterans who had given everything, who needed more than algorithmic solutions and performance. Metrics. I thought about Elena Rodriguez, a veteran I had helped just last month. A medic like myself, she had returned from deployment struggling with PTSD, unable to find work. Her military skills seemingly invisible to civilian employers. We had found her not just a job, but a purpose, training service dogs for other veterans with similar challenges. Elena's story was why I continued this work, why every bureaucratic battle mattered. My nonprofit, Warriors Bridge, wasn't just an organization. It was a lifeline. We didn't just help veterans find jobs. We helped them rediscover identity, purpose, community. Our job training programs went beyond resume writing. We offered trauma-informed support, mental health resources, peer counseling. We understood that transitioning from military to civilian life was more than a career change. It was a fundamental reimagining of self. Mark's letter suggested bringing in efficiency consultants to optimize our operational model. Translation. They wanted to transform a human-centered support system into a data-driven machine. I remembered my first days establishing Warriors Bridge, meeting veterans in community centers, coffee shops, church basements, listening to stories of struggle, of resilience. Building trust was our most important currency. How do you quantify the moment a veteran realizes they're not alone? How do you create an algorithm for human connection? That evening, I called my oldest military friend, Sergeant James Wheeler. We had served together in Afghanistan, saved each other's lives more times than we could count. Now he ran a veteran support center in Sacramento. "They're trying to sanitize our work," I told him, describing Mark's letter. James understood immediately. "They want to turn human stories into spreadsheet." Rose. Our conversation lasted hours. We talked about veterans we'd helped, about the invisible wounds of war, about the complex journey of returning home. James had his own struggles. He'd lost his leg in an IED explosion, battled depression, rebuilt his life through community support. His center, like mine, was more than a service. It was a sanctuary. The burn on my hand had started to heal, leaving another scar to join the collection from my military service. Each mark told a story of survival, of choosing to continue when giving up seemed easier. I thought about my mother, Maria, a woman who had worked double shifts, who had taught me that dignity wasn't given, it was claimed. She had survived by being smarter, working harder, refusing to be defined by others' limitations. Her blood ran in my veins. The next morning, I called Sarah Thompson, a veteran rights lawyer I had worked with for years. Brilliant, strategic, with a legal mind as sharp as her commitment to veteran support. "They can't just waltz in and dismantle what we've built," Sarah said after reviewing Mark's letter. "But they'll try every legal maneuver possible." We began preparing, not with anger, but with the methodical precision of a combat mission. Gathering documentation, financial records, impact reports. Proving that our approach wasn't just effective, it was revolutionary. The burn on my hand was healing, but something else was brewing. A response that would go beyond legal documents and corporate strategies. A statement about the true meaning of service, of family, of legacy. Mark thought he was fighting a bureaucratic battle. He had no idea the real campaign was just beginning, and I was a veteran who knew exactly how to wage war, not with weapons, but with unwavering purpose. Beneath the floor of our modest home in Oakland, a secret had been waiting. Not a weapon, not stolen documents, but something far more powerful. A testament to decades of strategic planning that even my husband Robert didn't fully comprehend. The safe was custom-built, integrated into the foundation of the house, a skill I'd learned during my most classified military training. Survival wasn't just about combat, it was about preparation, about maintaining options when everyone else believed you had none. Inside the safe lay a collection that would change everything, not just documents, but a carefully curated archive of my life's most significant work. Financial records of Warriors Bridge showing our true impact. Recommendation letters from veterans we'd helped. Personal stories of transformation. Maria Gonzalez, who became a successful aerospace engineer after our job training program. James Carter, who overcame severe PTSD to start a community support network. Michael Rodriguez, who used our scholarship program to become a pediatric nurse. But the most significant item was something entirely unexpected, the original deed to a 50-acre property in the Sierra Nevada mountains. A piece of land I had purchased quietly 15 years ago, using money from a military settlement and some strategic investments. The property wasn't just land. It was a lifeline, a potential sanctuary for veterans struggling to transition, a place of healing and purpose. I had been slowly developing infrastructure, building sustainable housing, creating a holistic recovery center that went far beyond traditional veteran support models. Robert discovered the safe by accident. I was preparing my response to Mark's corporate intervention when he moved an old filing cabinet, revealing a slight discrepancy in the floor's alignment. "Kate," he called, his historian's curiosity piqued. "What's this?" I could have deflected. Instead, I chose transparency. The same approach I had used throughout my military career and in building Warriors Bridge. "Our backup plan," I said simply. The property represented more than a physical location. It was a philosophy of support that went beyond bureaucratic metrics. Solar-powered cabins designed by veteran architects, organic farming programs providing vocational training, mental health retreat spaces integrated into the natural landscape, a holistic approach to veteran recovery that addressed body, mind, and spirit. Sarah Thompson, my legal advisor, had been instrumental in creating a complex trust structure that protected the property from potential corporate interference. Each detail was meticulously planned, not out of paranoia, but out of a deep understanding of systemic challenges veterans face. I thought about the veterans who would benefit, not just those struggling with visible wounds, but those fighting invisible battles, the ones society often forgot, those dealing with complex PTSD, struggling with identity after military service, searching for purpose. Mark believed he was fighting a bureaucratic battle. He had no idea the real mission was already in motion. The Sierra Nevada property had been my secret mission for years. While Mark climbed corporate ladders and Sarah cultivated social connections, I had been building something far more significant: a sanctuary, a bridge between military and civilian life. Each cabin on the property told a story. Some were already operational, hosting veteran rehabilitation programs. Others were in various stages of development: native plant restoration projects, sustainable agriculture initiatives, mental health research programs specifically designed for veteran populations. James Wheeler had been my primary collaborator. We had spent countless nights discussing the vision, refining the approach. Not a retreat, but a transformation center. A place that recognized veterans not as broken individuals needing fixing, but as resilient humans with extraordinary potential. The trust documents were a masterpiece of legal engineering. Multiple layers of protection ensured that Warrior's bridge could not be easily dismantled. If corporate interests tried to interfere with the nonprofit, the Sierra Nevada property would serve as a backup, a completely separate entity that could continue the mission. Robert looked at me with a mixture of awe and familiar admiration. "You've been planning this for years," he said. It wasn't a question. "Always have a mission," I replied, echoing an old military principle. "Always have a backup plan." The burn on my hand from Sarah's tea had almost healed, but a different kind of healing was about to begin. Not just for me, but for hundreds of veterans who would find hope in this hidden sanctuary. Mark thought he was going to restructure my nonprofit. Instead, he was about to discover that some legacies cannot be managed, measured, or manipulated. Some missions are too important to fail. Preparation is an art form I had mastered long before Mark was born. In Afghanistan, a moment's hesitation could mean the difference between life and death. Here, in the quiet battleground of family and legacy, the same principles applied: precision, patience, strategic thinking. I began by assembling my most trusted allies. Not with phone calls or emails. Those could be traced, monitored, intercepted. Instead, I used a communication network developed during my military intelligence training. Secure drop points, encrypted messaging, carefully orchestrated meetings, in locations that appeared entirely coincidental. Elena Rodriguez, the veteran I had helped transition to service dog training, became my first strategic partner. Her organization had extensive connections with veteran support networks across 3 states. We met at a small farmers market in Berkeley, appearing like 2 friends casually catching up. Between discussions about local produce and community events, we mapped out a comprehensive response to Mark's corporate intervention. James Wheeler flew in from Sacramento. A prosthetic leg and decades of military experience had made him a master of adaptive strategy. We spent an entire weekend at Robert's family cabin in the Santa Cruz Mountains, developing a multi-layered approach that would protect Warrior's Bridge and expose the potential damage of corporate restructuring. Sarah Thompson worked her legal magic. She began gathering documentation, impact reports, testimonial videos, financial records that demonstrated the nonprofit's effectiveness. Not just numbers, but human stories, veterans who had transformed their lives through our programs. Each document was a weapon, carefully chosen and precisely deployed. I thought about my mother, Maria, a woman who had survived by being smarter, working harder, refusing to be defined by others' limitations. She had taught me that true power wasn't about confrontation, but about creating something so valuable that it couldn't be ignored. The Sierra Nevada property became our strategic headquarters. Remote, secure, with multiple communication redundancies. We transformed the existing infrastructure, adding layers of protection that would make a military intelligence unit proud. Satellite communication systems, backup power generators, secure. Data storage that could withstand multiple types of interference. Mark believed he was dealing with a simple nonprofit. He had no idea of the network we were building, a comprehensive support system that went far beyond traditional veteran services. Our approach would be multidimensional: legal protection, media strategy, community mobilization. Each veteran we had helped became a potential ally, a voice that could speak to the true impact of our work. I remembered a critical mission in Afghanistan, extracting a team from an impossible situation. We hadn't fought with pure force, but with intelligence, with understanding of the terrain, with connections that ran deeper than any military strategy. Robert became an unexpected strategist. His historian's perspective provided crucial insights. He began documenting the history of veteran support, creating a comprehensive narrative that demonstrated the critical importance of organizations like Warriors Bridge. Elena developed a media campaign that would tell the human stories behind our work, not just statistics, but real transformations. Veterans who had rebuilt their lives, found purpose, created community. Each story was a precise weapon, designed to cut through corporate rhetoric. James Wheeler began connecting with veteran support organizations nationwide. We were building a coalition, a network that could respond quickly, strategically, not just a single organization, but a movement. The burn on my hand had become a symbol, not of injury, but of resilience. Each scar told a story of survival, of choosing to continue when giving up seemed easier. Mark thought he was fighting a bureaucratic battle. He had no idea the real campaign was already in motion. We weren't just defending an organization. We were protecting a lifeline for thousands of veterans. Our preparation was meticulous, every potential scenario analyzed, multiple backup plans developed. We understood that true strategy wasn't about winning a single battle, but about creating a sustainable path forward. I thought about the veterans we had helped. Maria Gonzalez, now an aerospace engineer. James Carter, who had transformed his PTSD into a community support network. Michael Rodriguez, saving lives as a pediatric nurse. Each of them was a testament to the power of genuine support. The corporate world believed success was measured in quarterly reports and stock prices. We knew the true measure of success was human transformation. Mark was about to learn a critical lesson. Some missions are too important to fail. Some legacies cannot be managed, measured, or manipulated. Our preparation was complete. The real battle was about to begin. The confrontation arrived not with a dramatic thunderclap, but with the quiet precision of a carefully executed military operation. It was a Tuesday morning when Mark's corporate lawyers descended on Warriors Bridge headquarters, a converted warehouse in Oakland that had become a sanctuary for veterans seeking transformation. They arrived in matching charcoal suits, leather, briefcases gleaming under the morning sunlight. 6 lawyers, each looking like they had been manufactured from the same corporate assembly line. Their leader, a razor-sharp woman named Victoria Chen, carried herself with the confidence of someone who had never been told no. I was already there, surrounded by the evidence of our organization's impact. Walls covered with photographs of veterans we had helped, some in military uniforms, others in graduation gowns, business suits, medical scrubs. Each image told a story of resilience, of transformation beyond the limitations others had imposed. Mrs. Reyes, Victoria began, her voice a carefully modulated instrument of corporate intimidation. We're here to discuss the restructuring of Warriors Bridge. The conference room had been prepared meticulously, not by me, but by Elena Rodriguez and James Wheeler, who understood the art of strategic presentation. Each document was placed with purpose, financial records showing our impact, testimonial videos ready to play. A visual narrative that went beyond numbers. Mark sat slightly behind the legal team, not making eye contact. The son I had raised, who once hung on my every word about service and sacrifice, now looked like a stranger. His expensive suit, his carefully maintained corporate persona, a costume that separated him from the world I had dedicated my life to serving. Before we begin, I said, my voice carrying the calm I had learned in combat zones, I'd like to show you something. The first video began. Maria Gonzalez, the veteran we had helped transition into an aerospace engineering career. Her story wasn't just about job placement. It was about reclaiming identity, finding purpose beyond military service. Victoria attempted to interrupt. Mrs. Reyes, we're here to discuss operational efficiency. I raised my hand, a gesture learned from years of military command. Stop. Listen. The video continued. Maria described her struggle with PTSD, her difficulty transitioning to civilian life. How Warriors Bridge hadn't just found her a job, but had provided comprehensive support, mental health resources, skills training, community connection. Mark shifted uncomfortably. I could see the conflict in his posture. The corporate lawyer wanting to maintain control, the son who somewhere deep down remembered the values I had tried to instill. James Carter's video followed. A veteran who had transformed his PTSD into a community support network. Not just a success story, but a demonstration of how our approach went beyond traditional rehabilitation. Victoria's facade began to crack. These weren't just stories. They were living proof of an approach that defied corporate metrics. Our financial models, she began, pulling out a thick report, suggest significant inefficiencies. Elena Rodriguez stood, a former medic, now a service dog trainer. Her prosthetic hand, a testament to service, rested on a stack of additional documentation. Those models, she said, don't measure human transformation. The room fell silent. Mark looked at Elena, truly, looked at her, perhaps for the first time seeing beyond corporate classifications to the human being beneath. Sarah Thompson, our legal advisor, began systematically dismantling their restructuring proposal. Not with aggression, but with precise, fact-based arguments. Each point backed by legal precedent, financial analysis, impact data. I watched Mark, not with anger, but with a complex mixture of disappointment and hope. The son who had once looked at me with admiration was now confronting a version of me he had never fully seen. The confrontation lasted hours. Not a battle, but a systematic deconstruction of corporate assumptions. We weren't just defending an organization. We were challenging an entire approach to human value. As the afternoon light shifted, something changed in the room. Victoria's aggressive posture softened. The lawyer's unified front began to crack. They were encountering something they couldn't quantify. The immeasurable impact of genuine human support. Mark remained silent, but something in his eyes had changed. A recognition, not just of what Warriors Bridge did, but of who I truly was. The burn on my hand, Sarah's tea incident, had become a symbol, not of injury, but of resilience, of a battle far more important than corporate restructuring. As the meeting concluded, no definitive decision had been made, but a transformation had begun, not just of an organization, but of understanding. Mark approached me as the lawyers packed up. No words were spoken, just a look, a momentary connection that suggested something profound was shifting. The real victory wasn't in winning an argument. It was in revealing a truth that couldn't be contained by corporate metrics or familial misunderstandings. Some legacies are too powerful to be managed. Some stories are too important to be silenced. The aftermath of the confrontation spread like a complex web, touching lives far beyond the conference room where our truth had been laid bare. Media outlets began calling, local news stations, veteran support networks, investigative journalists who sensed a story deeper than simple corporate. Restructuring. Our first interview came through NPR's Veteran Support Program. Elena Rodriguez sat beside me, her service dog Ranger quietly at her feet. The studio felt sterile, but our message was anything but clinical. We spoke about Warriors Bridge not as a nonprofit, but as a living, breathing ecosystem of support. It's not about job placement, Elena explained, her prosthetic hand gesturing with practiced ease. It's about reclaiming identity, about understanding that your military service is a chapter of your life, not the entire story. Mark's corporate world began to react. His firm initially tried to control the narrative, issuing carefully worded press statements about reviewing potential nonprofit partnerships. But our network was faster, more authentic. Veterans across the country began sharing their stories, not just from Warriors Bridge, but from similar organizations fighting against corporate standardization of human support. Robert became an unexpected media strategist. His historian's perspective provided context that went beyond our immediate conflict. He began documenting the broader narrative of veteran support, tracing how community-driven approaches had always been more effective than top-down corporate models. Sarah Thompson managed the legal front with surgical precision. Each potential corporate challenge was anticipated, prepared for, systematically dismantled. We weren't just defending ourselves, we were creating a new framework for understanding veteran support. The burn on my hand, that moment of casual cruelty at the dinner party, became a symbol. Journalists picked up on the story, not just of corporate intervention, but of a deeper family conflict that represented broader societal tensions. Social media exploded. Veteran support groups, military families, even corporate accountability. Networks began sharing our story. Mark's professional network started to feel the pressure. Colleagues began asking questions. Not aggressive accusations, but subtle inquiries that suggested a shifting perspective. James Wheeler coordinated our veteran network response. Each organization we had supported over the years now became an amplifier. They weren't just supporting us. They were telling a broader story about the true meaning of service, of support, of community. Sarah discovered something unexpected during her legal research. Mark's firm had been exploring a significant contract with a government veteran support program. Our public stand created a potential conflict, not just a PR issue, but a genuine professional challenge. The Sierra Nevada property became our strategic headquarters. What had once been a secret became a symbol of resilience. Veterans began reaching out, wanting to understand our model, to learn from our approach. Elena developed a documentary project, not just about Warriors Bridge, but about the broader ecosystem of veteran support. Each interview peeled back layers of misunderstanding about veteran experiences. Mark's world began to fracture. His wife Sarah, the woman who had burned my hand with tea, found herself navigating unexpected professional challenges. Corporate networks that had seemed solid began to shift. We received support from unexpected quarters. Military leadership, who understood the deeper value of community-based support. Corporate leaders who recognized the limitations of purely metrics-driven approaches. Academic researchers studying veteran transition. The initial fallout was complex, not a simple victory, but a multifaceted transformation. Our story became more than a family conflict. It became a broader conversation about value, about support, about what it means to truly serve. James Carter, The veteran who had transformed his PTSD experience into a community support network began developing training programs based on our approach. What had started as our defense became a broader movement. Mark's attempts to control the narrative began to unravel. Each press statement seemed more defensive, more disconnected from the human stories we were sharing. The burn on my hand had become more than a physical mark. It was a symbol of resilience, of the moment when casual cruelty met strategic purpose. Veteran. Support organizations nationwide began reaching out. Our approach wasn't just a defense. It was a potential model for a new way of understanding post-military support. Robert's historical research began to frame our story in a broader context. Not just about one nonprofit, but about the ongoing struggle to recognize the full humanity of those who serve. Victoria Chen, the corporate lawyer who had led the initial intervention, found herself in an unexpected position. Her firm began receiving inquiries about their approach to veteran support. The media attention created a ripple effect. Universities began exploring our model. Corporate HR departments started questioning their veteran hiring and support strategies. Elena's service dog training program expanded. What had been a small initiative became a national model for veteran support and animal-assisted therapy. We weren't just defending an organization. We were challenging an entire approach to human value. The initial fallout was just the beginning. A transformation was underway, not just of an organization, but of an entire approach to understanding service, support, and human potential. Some stories are too powerful to be contained. Some legacies refuse to be quietly managed. The quiet moments between media storms became our most profound battlegrounds, not fought with words or legal documents, but with a deeper exploration of the values that truly defined us. I began spending more time at our Sierra Nevada property, the land that had been my secret sanctuary. Each visit peeled back layers of meaning that went far beyond a simple piece of real estate. The sustainable cabins, the carefully restored ecosystem, the training grounds. They were more than infrastructure. They were a physical manifestation of a philosophy of human potential. Robert joined me on these visits, bringing his historian's perspective. We would walk the property at dawn, discussing the deeper narratives of service, of community, of what it means to truly support human transformation. This isn't just about veterans, he would say, examining a newly planted native garden. This is about reimagining how we view human recovery, human potential. Elena Rodriguez began developing a comprehensive training program based on our approach. Not just job placement, but holistic human support. Mental health resources integrated with vocational training, community building as a fundamental aspect of individual recovery. We invited Mark to the Sierra Nevada property, not as a confrontation, but as an invitation to understanding. The invitation came through Robert, delivered with the careful diplomacy he had mastered over decades of teaching history. The day Mark arrived was unusually clear. Late autumn sunlight filtered through pine trees, creating a landscape that seemed to breathe with possibility. He arrived in his corporate SUV, looking slightly out of place among the rugged terrain. I watched him from the main cabin's porch. The same porch where I had planned our most strategic moments, where veteran support networks had been built over countless cups of coffee. Mark's initial approach was tentative, corporate armor still firmly in place, but cracks were beginning to show. He looked different, less polished, more uncertain. "I've been doing research," he said, breaking the initial silence. Not an apology, not a surrender, but an opening. We walked the property together. I showed him the sustainable agriculture program. Veterans learning farming techniques, reconnecting with land, finding purpose beyond their military service. Michael Rodriguez, the veteran who had become a pediatric nurse, was leading a training session. Veterans learning organic farming, mental health support integrated into every aspect of the program. Mark watched carefully. Not with the dismissive corporate eye he had used before, but with genuine curiosity. "This isn't just about job training," he observed. "It's about human restoration," I replied. "About understanding that service doesn't end when you take off the uniform." We discussed the deeper philosophy behind Warriors Bridge, not just a nonprofit, but a comprehensive approach to human potential. Mental health support integrated with vocational training, community building as a fundamental aspect of individual recovery. James Wheeler joined us, sharing stories of veterans who had transformed their lives, not through corporate metrics, but through genuine human support. "Your generation sees value in spreadsheets," James said to Mark. "We see value in human potential." The burn on my hand, Sarah's casual cruelty, became a metaphorical turning point. A moment that had seemed like a personal attack now represented something larger: the disconnect between transactional relationships and genuine human connection. Mark began asking questions. Not the calculated inquiries of a corporate lawyer, but genuine curiosity. About our veterans, about our approach, about the philosophy that had driven my life's work. Elena shared her own transformation, from a wounded veteran to a service dog trainer. Not a linear path, but a complex journey of rediscovery. "Military service doesn't define you," she told Mark. "It's part of your story, not the entire narrative." Robert documented our conversations, not for publication, but as a historical record. Understanding how perspectives shift, how values are challenged and transformed. The Sierra Nevada property became more than a training ground. It became a living laboratory of human potential. Solar-powered cabins, sustainable agriculture programs, mental health support integrated with vocational training. Mark's corporate perspective began to crack, not dramatically, but through careful exploration. Conversations that went beyond surface-level understanding. We discussed the limitations of corporate approaches to human support, the way metrics often missed the complex human stories beneath. James Carter joined us, sharing how he had transformed his PTSD experience into a community support network. Not through corporate intervention, but through genuine human connection. The day concluded with a sunset over the Sierra Nevada mountains. Mark looked different. Less the corporate lawyer, more a human being reconnecting with a broader understanding of value. "I never understood," he said quietly. Not an apology, not a surrender, but an acknowledgement. Our exploration of values wasn't about winning, it was about understanding. About recognizing the complex human stories that exist beyond corporate classifications. Some transformations happen not with dramatic confrontations, but with quiet, persistent truth-telling. The burn on my hand had become a symbol of something larger. Not of injury, but of the possibility of genuine human connection. The transformative dialogue began not in a corporate boardroom or a family dining room, but in the most unexpected of places, the small kitchen of our Sierra Nevada property, where generations of veteran stories had been shared over countless cups of coffee. Sarah, Mark's wife, arrived unannounced. The woman who had burned my hand with tea now stood hesitantly at the doorway, looking nothing like the polished corporate lawyer who had once dismissed me so casually. "I need to understand," she said, the words falling between us like a fragile bridge. Robert was teaching a small group of veterans about historical perspectives of service when Sarah arrived. Veterans from different conflicts, Afghanistan, Iraq, Vietnam, sat around a large wooden table, their stories creating a tapestry of experience that defied simple categorization. The kitchen had become more than a gathering space. It was a sanctuary of transformation. Walls lined with photographs of veterans who had rebuilt their lives, handmade quilts draped over chairs, each stitch a testament to healing and connection. Sarah watched the group, her corporate armor visibly crumbling. These weren't the networking opportunities she had been trained to see. These were human beings with complex, profound stories of resilience. Michael Rodriguez, the pediatric nurse we had helped transition, was sharing his journey. How military medical training had transformed into a calling to heal children. How Warriors Bridge had been more than a job placement service. It had been a lifeline. I wasn't just finding a job, Michael explained. I was rediscovering my purpose. Sarah's professional veneer began to crack. The carefully maintained makeup, the expensive suit, they seemed suddenly irrelevant in this space of genuine human connection. Elena Rodriguez, our service dog trainer, approached Sarah. Her prosthetic hand, a testament to service and survival, extended. In a gesture of unexpected welcome, "Would you like some coffee?" Elena asked, not with hostility, not with judgment, but with a genuine invitation to connection. The conversation that followed was unlike any corporate negotiation. Raw, honest, complicated. Sarah spoke about her own journey. Growing up in a family where success was measured by professional achievements, by the ability to navigate social networks. Her parents' world of calculated connections, of performances that masked genuine emotion. "I never understood there was another way," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. Mark's own transformation had begun to ripple through their relationship. The corporate lawyer who had seen the world as a series of strategic moves was changing, becoming something more complex, more human. Robert shared historical perspectives. How communities had always been built not through transaction, but through genuine human connection. How veterans had always been more than their service records. They were living, breathing repositories of human resilience. James Wheeler, who had transformed his own post-military challenges into a support network, shared his story, not as a performance, but as a genuine exploration of human potential. "Military service doesn't define you," James said. "It's part of your story, not the entire narrative." The burn on my hand, that moment of casual cruelty, became a metaphorical turning point. No longer just a physical mark, but a symbol of a deeper disconnection that was now being healed. Elena began showing Sarah the service dog training program. How veterans with complex PTSD were finding healing through connection with animals. How purpose could be rediscovered in the most unexpected ways. Mark arrived later, unexpected. Not as a corporate intervention, but as a genuine participant in this space of transformation. The conversations expanded. Veterans shared stories of recovery, of finding purpose beyond military service, of building communities that defied traditional understanding. Sarah began to see Warriors Bridge differently, not as a nonprofit to be managed, but as a living ecosystem of human potential. "This isn't about job placement," she said, watching a veteran train a service dog. "This is about human restoration." Mark listened, not with his previous corporate detachment, but with genuine curiosity. The son who had once dismissed my life's work was now actively seeking to understand. The day became a complex dialogue of transformation. Veterans sharing experiences, historians providing context, a family beginning to reconnect through genuine understanding. Elena's service dog, Ranger, moved between participants. A living reminder that healing is rarely linear, rarely predictable, as sunset approached, casting golden light through the kitchen windows. Something fundamental had shifted. Not a dramatic confrontation, but a quiet, profound reconnection. Sarah approached me, her earlier corporate confidence replaced by genuine vulnerability. "I never understood," she said. Not an apology, not a surrender, but an acknowledgement of a more complex truth. Mark stood nearby, watching. The transformation was happening not just for Sarah, not just for me, but for our entire family ecosystem. The burn on my hand had become a symbol of something larger, not of injury, but of the possibility of genuine human connection, of understanding, that transcends corporate classifications, family tensions, personal histories. Some dialogues aren't about winning. They're about truly seeing each other, about recognizing the complex, beautiful humanity that exists beyond our initial perceptions. As night fell over the Sierra Nevada property, the kitchen remained alive with conversation. Veterans, family members, supporters, all connected by a deeper understanding of human potential. A transformation was underway. Not just of individuals, but of entire ways of seeing human value. The redefinition of our family's relationship unfolded like a complex tapestry, each thread revealing depths we had never before acknowledged. It wasn't a sudden transformation, but a gradual recalibration that touched every aspect of our lives. Thanksgiving became our first true test. Not the carefully choreographed family gatherings of previous years, but a gathering at the Sierra Nevada property that defied all our previous expectations. Veterans from our program joined us. Michael Rodriguez with his pediatric nursing stories, Elena Rodriguez demonstrating her service dog training, James Wheeler sharing his community support network experiences. Robert had transformed the main cabin's large dining area into a space of connection. Handmade quilts draped over chairs, photographs documenting veteran stories lined the walls. The massive oak table, a piece my father had crafted decades ago, became more than furniture. It was a symbol of legacy, of preservation, of connection that transcended generations. Mark arrived with Sarah, but they were fundamentally different from the corporate couple who had once dismissed my life's work. Sarah now volunteered with veteran support programs, her legal skills redirected toward protecting nonprofit organizations. Mark had begun consulting with veteran transition programs, using his corporate background to create more human-centered support systems. The burn. On my hand, that moment of casual cruelty that had once seemed like a complete betrayal had transformed into a turning point. No longer a symbol of injury, but a catalyst for genuine family reconnection. Elena brought Ranger, her service dog, who moved between guests with an intuitive understanding of human emotional landscapes. Veterans who had gone through our programs, shared meals, shared stories, created a living network of support that extended far beyond traditional family boundaries. My mother Maria would have understood this transformation intuitively. She had always known that family wasn't about blood, but about genuine connection, about showing up, about seeing each other's true selves. James Wheeler shared stories of veteran support networks he had built, demonstrating how community could be created from shared experience. Michael Rodriguez talked about his work in pediatric nursing, showing how military medical training could transform into a deeper calling of healing. Mark began asking questions, not the calculated inquiries of a corporate lawyer, but genuine curiosity about the veterans' experiences, about their journeys of transformation, about the philosophy that had driven my life's work. Sarah's transformation was perhaps the most unexpected. The woman who had once viewed my work as a quaint distraction now understood the profound impact of community-based support. She had begun using her legal skills to protect nonprofit organizations, to create legal frameworks that supported human-centered approaches. Robert documented our conversations, not for publication, but as a historical record, understanding how perspectives shift, how families rebuild, how human potential can be reimagined. The Sierra Nevada property had become more than a training ground. It was a living testament to human resilience, solar-powered cabins, sustainable agriculture programs, mental health support integrated with vocational training, a physical manifestation of the values we had fought to preserve. Our family dinners became something entirely new, no longer about performance or social positioning, but about genuine connection. Veterans would share meals with us. Families would come together not through blood, but through shared experience of transformation. Mark's corporate perspective had fundamentally shifted. He began developing transition programs for veterans in corporate environments. Not just job placement, but holistic support that recognized the full humanity of those who had served. Elena's service dog training program expanded. What had been a small initiative became a national model for veteran support and animal-assisted therapy. Mark began helping to secure funding, using his corporate connections for genuine human support. The burn on my hand had become a metaphorical bridge between past and present, between military and civilian life, between family members who had been disconnected. During one evening gathering, James Carter, who had transformed his PTSD experience into a community support network, shared a profound observation. "Family isn't about agreement," he said. "It's about seeing each other. Really seeing each other." Sarah began developing legal frameworks to protect veteran support networks. Her corporate skills now redirected toward creating systemic support for organizations like Warriors Bridge. Michael Rodriguez shared how his military medical training had transformed into a deeper calling of pediatric nursing. Mark listened, truly listened, understanding the complex journey of transformation. The photography project Elena had begun documenting veteran stories became a powerful tool of understanding. Not just images, but complex narratives of human resilience. Our family gatherings became something entirely new. Veterans from different conflicts would share meals. Families would connect through shared experiences of transformation. Robert's historical perspective provided context, understanding how support networks had always been the true fabric of human connection. Mark's corporate network began to change. Veteran support programs became more than a peripheral concern. They became a central focus of corporate social responsibility. The burn on my hand was now a symbol of something profound, not of injury, but of the possibility of genuine human connection, of understanding that transcends initial perceptions. As we sat around the table, watching the sunset over the Sierra Nevada mountains, something fundamental had changed. We were no longer just a family. We were a community, connected not by blood, but by a deeper understanding of human potential. Some relationships aren't about maintaining previous narratives. They're about creating entirely new ways of seeing each other, of supporting each other, of recognizing the complex, beautiful humanity that exists beyond our initial expectations. The validation arrived unexpectedly, on a crisp autumn morning when the Sierra Nevada mountains seemed to hold their breath in anticipation. A National Veterans Support Conference had selected Warriors Bridge as the model program for holistic veteran rehabilitation, an honor that went far beyond any corporate achievement Mark had ever received. The ceremony wasn't held in a sleek conference center or a downtown hotel. It took place right here, on the land we had transformed. Veterans from across 3 decades of conflicts gathered: Afghanistan, Iraq, Vietnam, Desert Storm. Each generation represented, each story a testament to resilience. Mark stood beside me, no longer the corporate lawyer who had once tried to restructure my nonprofit, but a true ally. Sarah managed the event's logistics, her legal skills now directed toward supporting veteran initiatives. Robert documented everything, his historian's perspective capturing the profound significance of the moment. Elena Rodriguez received the primary award, not just for her service dog training program, but for the comprehensive approach to veteran support that had become our hallmark. Her prosthetic hand held the crystal trophy, a symbol of transformation more powerful than any corporate award. James Wheeler, who had transformed his own post-military challenges into a national support network, introduced the award. His speech wasn't about achievements, but about genuine human restoration. "We're not talking about job placement," James told the assembled veterans and supporters. "We're talking about reclaiming identity, about understanding that service doesn't end when you take off the uniform." The burn on my hand, That moment of casual cruelty that had once seemed like a complete betrayal was now a distant memory. A catalyst that had set in motion an entire transformation. Michael Rodriguez, the pediatric nurse we had helped transition, shared his story. How military medical training had become a calling to heal children. How Warriors Bridge had been more than a job placement service. It had been a lifeline. The property itself became a living testament to our approach. Sustainable agriculture programs where veterans learned new skills. Mental health support centers integrated into the landscape. Solar-powered cabins that represented more than just infrastructure. They were physical manifestations of hope. Sarah had transformed the legal documentation surrounding the property. No longer just a corporate exercise, but a comprehensive framework for veteran support that could be replicated nationwide. Mark's corporate connections now served a different purpose. He had begun developing transition programs for veterans in corporate environments. Not just job placement, but holistic support that recognized the full humanity of those who had served. The National Veterans Support Organization had spent months studying our approach. They hadn't just found a successful program. They had discovered a completely new model of veteran support. Elena's service dog training program became a centerpiece of the presentation. How animals could be more than companions. They could be partners in human restoration. Veterans from different conflicts shared their stories. Not as performances, but as genuine explorations of human potential. Each narrative revealed layers of resilience that defied simple categorization. Robert's historical research provided context, showing how community support had always been the true fabric of human connection. How veterans had always been more than their service records. The burn on my hand had become a metaphorical bridge between past and present, between military and civilian life, between family members who had been disconnected. James Carter, who had transformed his PTSD experience into a community support network, spoke about the deeper meaning of support. Support isn't about fixing, he told the crowd. It's about recognizing, about creating spaces where human potential can be rediscovered. The photography project documenting veteran stories became a powerful tool of understanding. Not just images, but complex narratives of human resilience. Mark introduced the next phase of our work, a comprehensive veteran support program that integrated mental health, vocational training, and community building. Not a corporate initiative, but a human-centered approach. Sarah had developed legal frameworks to protect and expand veteran support networks. Her corporate skills now fully redirected toward creating systemic support. The physical space of the Sierra Nevada property told a story larger than words. Sustainable infrastructure, mental health support centers, agricultural training programs, a living laboratory of human restoration. As the sun began to set, casting golden light across the mountains, something profound became clear. This wasn't just an award. This was a validation of an entire approach to understanding human potential. Elena spoke last. Her words were simple but powerful. "We're not defined by our challenges," she said. "We're defined by how we choose to move forward." The burn on my hand was now a distant memory, a catalyst that had set in motion an entire transformation of understanding. Mark approached me after the ceremony, not as a corporate lawyer, not as a son trying to manage his mother's life, but as a true ally, as someone who had learned to see the full complexity of human experience. "I'm proud of you," he said. Simple words that carried the weight of our entire journey. The validation wasn't about the award. It was about the recognition that human potential cannot be contained by corporate metrics. That true support goes far beyond job placement. As night fell over the Sierra Nevada property, the gathering continued. Veterans, supporters, family, connected not by blood, but by a deeper understanding of human resilience. Some moments of validation, aren't about external recognition. They're about truly seeing each other, about recognizing the profound potential that exists when we choose connection over division. The final chapter of our journey wasn't about triumph, but about understanding, about recognizing that transformation is a continuous process, not a destination to be reached. Winter came to the Sierra Nevada property, and with it, a profound stillness that seemed to reflect our family's transformation. The sustainable cabins we had built stood as silent witnesses to a journey that had begun with a moment of casual cruelty, a burned hand, a dismissed legacy. Robert spent hours documenting our story, not as a linear narrative, but as a complex tapestry of human resilience. His historian's perspective captured something deeper than mere events, the subtle shifts in understanding that truly change lives. Mark had become more than just my son. He was now a partner in the veteran support mission. His corporate skills, once a source of division, now served a higher purpose. He developed transition programs that recognized veterans as whole human beings, not just potential employees. Sarah's transformation was perhaps the most unexpected. The woman who had once burned my hand with tea now led legal initiatives protecting veteran support networks. Her corporate law background became a tool for creating systemic change, not just individual success. Elena Rodriguez continued to expand the service dog training program. What had begun as a small initiative now touched thousands of veterans' lives. Each dog trained was more than a companion, a bridge to healing, to reconnection. James Wheeler's community support network grew exponentially. Veterans from different conflicts found connection, found purpose. The invisible wounds of service began to heal through genuine human understanding. The burn on my hand, once a symbol of family division, had become a metaphor for transformation. Each scar told a story of resilience, of choosing connection over conflict. Michael Rodriguez's work as a pediatric nurse continued to inspire. He embodied the true meaning of service, healing, supporting, transforming lives beyond the battlefield. Our Sierra Nevada property had become more than a training ground. It was a living testament to human potential. Solar-powered infrastructure, sustainable agriculture programs, mental health support centers integrated into the landscape. The National Veterans Support Conference had been more than an award. It was a recognition of a fundamental shift in understanding veteran support, not as a problem to be solved, but as a community to be supported. As winter deepened, we gathered for what had become our new family tradition: veterans from different conflicts, family members, supporters, a community built not on blood, but on genuine human connection. Mark shared stories of the transition programs he had developed, not with the corporate detachment of the past, but with genuine passion. How veterans were finding purpose, reconnecting with their sense of self. Sarah discussed the legal frameworks she had created, protecting veteran support networks, ensuring that the work we had begun could continue, could grow. Elena brought Ranger, her service dog, a living reminder of the power of connection, of healing that goes beyond traditional understanding. Robert continued documenting our journey, understanding how support networks had always been the true fabric of human connection. James Carter spoke about the community support network, how PTSD could be transformed into a source of strength, of connection. The property itself seemed to breathe with possibility. Each sustainable cabin, each carefully restored ecosystem, a physical manifestation of our philosophy of human potential. As night fell, casting long shadows across the Sierra Nevada mountains, something profound became clear. Our story wasn't about overcoming a single moment of conflict. It was about continuous transformation. The burn on my hand was now just a memory, a catalyst that had set in motion an entire reimagining of family, of support, of human potential. Mark approached me as the evening wound down. No longer the corporate lawyer trying to manage my life, but a true partner, a son who had learned to see the full complexity of human experience. "I never understood," he said, a phrase that had become a kind of prayer between us, a recognition of the journey we had taken. The transformation wasn't complete. It was ongoing, a continuous process of seeing each other, of supporting each other, of recognizing the profound potential that exists when we choose connection over division. As the fire crackled in the massive stone fireplace my father had built decades ago, I realized that some legacies are not inherited. They are created. Moment by moment, choice by choice. Our story wasn't over. It was just beginning. Call to action. If this story touched you, if it made you reflect on the power of family, of veteran support, of human resilience, subscribe to our channel. Hit that notification bell. Because every story has the power to transform. Every voice deserves to be heard. Next week, we'll share another incredible story of transformation, of unexpected connections, of the human spirit's incredible capacity to heal and grow. Don't miss it. Subscribe now.